Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, this is my reaction video to a previous video that I recorded earlier in the week. Yeah? I am in the middle of my deep dive into the Lenormand system. Yeah, the system that is originally called the Game of Hope, but the name of Madame Lenormand was added to the deck pretty quickly when it moved over to France. And it's a wonderful system of reading, and I've been exploring it for almost half a year now. And to help me get a more concise message, a more refined message perhaps, a central message from that spread, I do these extra readings. And where in the past I used to do only Terre de Marseille adjacent, or Italian decks, antique Italian decks, because I'm focusing on the Normand now, I have opened up the range of possibilities. So I'm also using Smith-Waite-based decks, Thoth-based decks, and Continental Tarot-based decks. And so this time I've got I would call it a Smith-Waite-based deck, even though some people might argue with me. But I'll be showing you those in just a little bit. But first, I would like to mention that just in case you have not seen that larger Lenormand spread that I did this week, I'm going to put a card up here for you to click on and hop on over and watch that spread first, so you understand why I'm reading these cards in the way that I'm reading them. Yeah, and remember, you don't have to watch any of these videos in one sitting. You can watch them in bits and pieces. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, your choice. But watch that first and then come back and watch this one, so that you understand, again, why I'm parsing these cards as I am parsing them. And just in case you did watch that video, but you watched it in bits and pieces, or you watched it a few days ago and you wanted a little bit of a refresher, man, that spread is a little bit difficult to get a refresher on, because it was a very challenging spread for me to read. And if you have seen it, you know why. It was a very challenging spread for me to read. But what I got out of it, I think, and hopefully this spread is going to help us clarify that, was that we've got all of this potential, but sometimes that potential can be burdensome. Sometimes our hope can be burdensome. And yet there's the possibility, the potential to unlock that burden, to discover what is the precious or the new or the valued thing within that burden. What does that mean? Do you have children? I do not, but do you have children? Do you ever feel the burden of raising a child or caring for a child? Sometimes the burden of taking care of another person can be tiring and weigh us down. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to take care of that person. We don't want to have that person in our life. We don't want to get rid of the child or get rid of whatever loved one it is that we're taking care of. But this spread the spread before seemed to be pointing towards a way of unlocking the burden to discover what is inside of there. Right? The creamy filling. The gold nugget within. Yeah? Maybe. I don't know. This spread will hopefully tell us more information. Yeah? So, what am I going to do? First, I will show you the entire spread. And we'll talk about the spread, we'll talk about the cards themselves, the decks that I'm using, and then we will break the spread into its two major component parts, and we'll read those parts separately. Kind of. Okay? So friends, first, let me show you the spread for this week. Here it is. Friends, what do you think of these two decks? Now, I told you in a previous video that I had decided that this lunar cycle is going to be my Robert M. Place lunar cycle. Yes? So, the tarot deck that you saw, did you recognize that it was a tarot deck on top? It is a tarot deck. It is the deck created by Robert M. Place. It is called the Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus, the great work of the alchemical great work, right? The alchemical magnum opus. It's a wonderful deck. It's a very pared down, it's a stripped down deck. Some people might call it a pip deck. I do not, because just as with the Pagan Otherworlds deck, if you know that, there's enough in here for us to really see the Smith-Waite systems ideas, foundations in the cards as they are. To me, I can see all of that. I do not think of this as a pip deck by any means. Yeah? So, I mean, there's other information there too. There is alchemical information in the cards as well. Maybe not as much in the cards that you saw in this spread, but in the major arcana, definitely. The court cards a little bit, but definitely the major arcana. We've got a lot of alchemical symbology and glyphs up there. Not so much in these cards. So, if you want to get this deck, I will have a link to Robert M. Place's page in the description box below. Great deck. Smallish. It's a square-ish deck. It's not full-on square, but it's square-ish. It's a little wider than a normal tarot deck and shorter than a normal tarot deck. So if you've got smallish hands, this deck I think would be pretty easy for you to use once you've gotten it in, gotten it broken in. The gilding on the cards is a little bit, you need to focus on breaking the cards apart, separating them, but once you do get them separated, pretty easy to shuffle, okay? Now, the Oracle deck you saw below is an Oracle deck that I have used on this channel quite frequently. It is the Oracle Berlin, and unfortunately, the best way I can think of for you to get a hold of this deck is to order it from Amazon France. And they ship internationally. So, you can order it from them, get it shipped to you. It's a fairly reasonable price. I would highly recommend getting the guidebook that is sold separately. If you want to know a link to the guidebook on other Amazon sites, ask me in the comments below and I will give you a link to that guidebook. But I would highly recommend getting that guidebook because the guidebook that comes with the deck itself is small, very small. It's in different languages, and so it's like one of those Lo Scarabeo guidebooks where you get very limited information in a guidebook that's small, and it looks like it should have more information, but that's because it's separated into 6 languages. You understand? So, yeah, but I highly recommend this deck because it helps us add a little bit of astrology to our readings. So, if you're working with an astrologically based tarot deck, it's wonderful. If you're working with a Tarot de Marseille deck, it's wonderful because that wood block print style matches up very nicely, I believe. And I think it works well with this deck that I'm using here, even though it's a Smith-Waite based deck, because there's even though it's not wood block print, there's that thick line quality in this tarot deck that I think works well with the Oracle Berlin. So that's why I'm using it. If you want to get the Oracle Berlin, again, there will be a link in the description box below. It's huge. The link is big to get to Amazon France, but it's down there. Okay? So friends, what are we going to do? I'm going to show you the 3 tarot cards once more so that you get the image refreshed, and then we will read those 3 cards together. Are you all ready? Well, friends, here are the tarot cards right now. Friends, you saw from left to right, we had the 4 of Wands, the King of Swords, and the Five of Pentacles. This spread does not look like a very happy spread, does it? Especially as it is not not a Tarot de Marseille or a Continental Tarot deck. Yeah, ending up with that Five of Coins is not really happy. And even though this is not a Tarot de Marseille deck, I'm going to read these cards from left to right for two reasons. One, that's the way I prefer. Two, you saw that the two beings with faces, the eagle and the human, are all looking off to the right, right? So, that's the direction I'm going to read them. And we start off with this wonderful, pared down, Four of Wands, Four of Batons card. And we see a hand fasting gesture here, right? Do you know hand fasting? Hand fasting, it's a way of, it's the Celtic way of having a marriage, right? Hand fasting, two hands bound together. And you see in this card, very interestingly, one hand has a red sleeve and one hand has a white sleeve, which, because this is an alchemical tarot, it points to the Red King and the White Queen, which in the process of alchemy want to merge to become the hermaphrodite. Yeah? The Red King and the White Queen marry first, and then they merge into one hermaphroditic being. So this is one part of the process of alchemy as well. But what is the Four of Wands? The Four of Wands is celebration and joy, right? It's harmony. It's relaxation, homecoming. I've come home. I can relax now. I can celebrate with my friends and family. It can be a marriage. The hand fasting here indicating marriage. It could also be familial bliss. According to Robert M. Place, this is the embracing of opposites. Commitment to passion. Yeah, marrying, because the wands are our fire, and that's where our passion lies, right? The wands is where our passions reside. And so we could be committing to another person, we could be committing to our passion, or we could be marrying opposites, like fire and water, the Red King and the White Queen, right? Our internal masculine, feminine qualities, male, female bits within us, because each of us has all of that within us, right? We all have our male parts and our female parts, and I don't mean parts like genitalia. I mean the aspects within our psyche. We have our male and female, our masculine, our feminine sides within each of us. Whether we're in a male body, we're in a female body, we're in a cis body, a trans body, an intersex body, it doesn't matter. We have all of those aspects within us, and we choose, I believe, to access and make use of some aspects, and we set some aspects aside. With the guidance of our family, with the guidance of society, or by our own choice. Does that make sense to you? I hope that makes sense to you. If it does not make sense to you, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I'll try and speak English better. But so here, we have this idea of marrying opposites, but we also have that idea of celebration, of joy, of harmony, which is interesting because remember that Lenormand spread started off with hope. But that Lenormand spread also ended up with the cross. And that Lenormand spread, when we read them with mirrors, we want to merge our hope and our burden together to alchemize something new. Aha! So in that video, I had spoken a lot about unlocking the burden, which I think that spread was talking about. But I think this is another layer. It's not just unlocking, it's also a marrying of the hope and the burden that is going to bring forth something else. Right? And what is that something else that we bring forth? We bring forth our King of Swords. Here we have the eagle. Now it's, okay, alchemy talk here. And it's interesting because if you look at the alchemical aspects of the Harris Crowley deck, the deck that was guided by Aleister Crowley, but actually created by Lady Frida Harris, right? In the alchemical symbology of that deck, we have both the red king and the white queen, but we also have the red lion and the white eagle as aspects of both. The white eagle being an aspect of the white queen, the red lion being an aspect of the red king, right? So here we have that white eagle here, which would make me think of the Queen of Swords, frankly, but here the white eagle is crowned here on the King of Swords. So what is that? What does that mean? Who is the King of Swords? Well, the King of Swords is mental clarity, right? Just like an eagle, flying high, also being able to see the wide picture, right? Like an eagle, flying high, seeing broadly. That's in here too. Intellectual power, also authority, and the ability to analyze. Analytical power is indicated here too. Now, the King of Swords can be stern, but the King of Swords is also intellectually orderly and is a truth teller. The truth is exquisitely important to the King of Swords. And the King of Swords can cut through, well, I usually think of the Queen of Swords cutting through the bullshit, but the King of Swords has the possibility of doing that as well. Clear thinking. According to Robert M. Place, this is clear thinking, positive thinking, and confidence. And so we had a little bit of that in the Lenormand Spread as well. We were asked to have confidence and perseverance in that spread. And so we move from the joining of our perhaps cross and star, our hope and guidance and destiny and the burden and the spirituality of burden. We merge those together, and in our clarity, we also find our confidence, right? And we gain our ability to really see clearly where it is we are, where we're going, and how to get there. We might, and truth is again, I keep wanting to say exquisitely important, and I'm not sure why that word is so stuck in my mind right now, but exquisitely important. Maybe it's because of the ecstasy, I don't know, no, I don't know. So, exquisitely important. And then we move into the Five of Pentacles. And what do we see here? We see a guy looking like a beggar, asking to receive those 5 coins from above, right? Reminding us of the Smith-Waite deck with the 2 people who are poorly dressed, in torn clothing, walking through the snow, one of them on crutches, bound up with bandages, passing in front of a church. Or it looks like a church, or someplace with a stone, powerful building with stained glass, right? So this image here really does call to mind that Pamela Coleman Smith created image of the 5 of Pentacles, even though this is the 5 of coins in this card. And what is the 5 of Pentacles? What is the 5 of coins? It's financial loss, right? It's poverty. It is a lack mindset also. Maybe the feeling of isolation, maybe worries, feeling destitute, feeling deprived, feeling loss. Yeah? And for Robert M. Place, this is a card of sickness as well as poverty and loss. So I don't necessarily think that we are going in the direction of being financially poor or necessarily coming down with some kind of illness, but rather, even with all of our mental clarity, even with our joining of the opposites, we still have both the positive and the negative together in this movement towards unification, towards alchemizing with our clarity. We're still going to need to move through this period of maybe worry, which was indicated in the Lenormand deck, the Lenormand spread earlier. Maybe earlier is that way for you. Maybe feelings of isolation. Remember, in that spread, our social networks were being eaten away a little bit. So we're going to have to move through that to get where we want to go. And it might be hard. We might feel hardship. We might be feeling the burden. But we still got to keep moving through that with our clarity, with our clear thinking, trying to move in the direction of positive thinking as we merge those two aspects of, again, the cross and the star together. Does that make sense? The alchemy of the joining of things that we consider to be one of them positive, one of them negative, joining of them to be able to create the child. The Philosopher's Stone. So friends, we've got 3 oracle cards to read together. So I'm going to show you those cards and I'll tell you how we're going to read them in just a moment. So here, friends, here are those oracle cards right now. Friends, you just saw from left to right. The first card was card number 38, which is called the Blasted Tower. The Blasted Tower, yeah? Blasted like lightning blasts. The Blasted Tower. The next card was number 10, which is the Gifts. And then the next card is 34, which is the Chained One. And we're going to read these cards as adjectives to the nouns of the tarot deck, tarot cards above. That means we're going to let these oracle cards modify the information that we got from the 3 tarot cards above. So, the first card, the Blasted Tower, can you see that this looks a lot like the Tower card in especially the Smith-Waite deck, but also in the, well, it's a little bit in the Thoth deck, and maybe even the Tarot de Marseille deck. Yeah, you see the lightning coming down, striking the tower, and the top of the tower blowing off. Can you see that? Also see the cloud above. And this card is associated with Mars, so there's that Martian energy here. The Martian new power that might come through Aries, could also come through Scorpio, right? Mars is housed in both Aries and Scorpio in the way I read astrology connected with especially tarot. So what is the Blasted Tower for us now? The Blasted Tower, the side title is Accident, which means accident. Yeah? Now the tower itself is a symbol of ascension for Belin. But this tower is blasted, so the power to rule is gone. Order is falling over head first, according to Belin. I think that's what he says. So this is accidents, changes of fortune. Destruction could be through fire or electrocution even, according to the Oracle Belin. Now, when Belin created this deck, probably it was the infancy of electricity, and electricity was a lot more unsafe at the time. So let's keep that in mind. I don't think he really is talking about electrocuting ourselves for all of us watching this video, right? So what is this talking about? We have changes of fortune. With fire, which is interesting because this comes right below the hand fasting card, right? Which is 4 wands. So it's right below this card of 4 flaming torches. Well, let me show it to you here together, right? It comes beneath this card of 4 flaming torches. So maybe in the joining of hope and in the joining of burden together, in the alchemical marriage, as we join opposite aspects together, there's an energy release that can be a bit destructive. The secondary astrology for this card is Venus, which attempts to soothe Mars's destructive power. But a complete change of life will be required. We're asked to make a big change to be able to soothe Mars's aggressive, destructive tendencies. So we're going to have to change. In the marriage of the white and the white and the red, we are going to have to change. In the marriage of our hope and our burden, we are going to have to be changed. We're going to have to evolve. Or it is going to be potentially devastating. Yeah? But the next card, look at this, is a sun card, right? It's called the gifts. And what do we see? We see a hand with a lot of stuff pouring forth. The side title for this card is Présent, which means gifts. So what kind of gifts do we have? Well, the hand giving is blessings from the divine. It's the hand of God that is doling out these gifts. What kind of gifts? Well, the stones are dreams, according to Belin. Yeah, the blue stones are our dreams. So we get dreams. But there are dreams, the dreams that we have for our future, perhaps. Yes? And the rings. The rings are rings of power. Now, the rings are our ability to make change in the world. Like, think of the Lord of the Rings, right? And then we have the crown, which is the power to rule over creation. And then we have the scepter, which is our supreme authority. So that means what? We have the gifts given by the divine through the King of Swords. Remember, this card is underneath the King of Swords. We go up, we fly high, we can see broadly, we have positive thinking, we think positively, we have confidence, and we're open to receiving the gifts of the divine, which are what? The ability to dream what we want to become, or the direction we want to be, or what we want to create, right? We have the power to do the work through the rings. We have the crown, which gives us the power to rule over creation, to do the work in the world, right? And the scepter gives us the authority to do all of that. So that's wonderful here, right? So we have, what does this card mean? Its presence or favors will come to us to help us fulfill a purpose. What is our purpose? Well, we can determine our own purpose, I think. We also have receiving perhaps from somebody else because they expect to get something from us. That's possible. But I think the main idea here is that we can receive in order to fulfill our purpose. Now, secondary astrology here is Saturn, which means that these gifts do have a shadow side. We have the potential, because we're near Mars cards on both sides, for those gifts to inspire a little bit of jealousy within us, perhaps a little bit of greed, perhaps even a little bit of ambition So we want to be careful of our ambition, our greed, and our jealousy in these times, because that could steer us off into the wrong direction, into a direction we don't want to go in, right? Okay, so this is below again, our clarity of mind, our clarity of understanding. And then the next card is the chained one. What do you see here? We see what looks like maybe a pharaoh, an Egyptian pharaoh chained to a post. And the side title here is despotisme, which means despotism. Despotism. It's a very binding kind of governing system, right? Despotism. Now the chains in this card point towards the tie between two extremes, or two beings. But here I think we're talking about extremes, right? The Red King and the White Queen. Here we're talking about remember the Lenormand reading for this week, that idea of joining our hope and our burden together to create the new. I think that's indicated here, that binding of the two. We haven't merged yet, but the binding maybe feel burdensome until we've done the work of merging into one. There is a keyhole here. I don't think you can see it by the cuffs, but by the cuffs there's a keyhole. So there's a way out. So this card is a card of bondage, voluntary or not, being trapped by influences or circumstances. And this is below what? This is below the Five of Pentacles card, which is loss, right? So this feeling of loss, of destitution, it doesn't matter how much money we have in the bank or in our pockets or on a credit card, we can still feel deprived. We can still feel hardships and privation because it's not as much as we thought we should have, right? That can lead us to this feeling of being chained, burdened, bondage. Now the secondary planetary association here is Saturn, right? Which gives us restrictions through obstacles. The mountain card from this week's Lenormand Spread, right? So we feel restricted, and maybe we will continue to feel restricted until we open the lock. Remember the key from the Lenormand Spread, until we open the lock by doing what? By doing this work, by joining our feeling of hope and our feeling of burden to create the new, the child that can be born, the philosopher's stone that can be born, the alchemical stone that will be our evolution and our healing. Does that make sense? I think that's where this spread is pointing. And I think this spread here helped us to understand that Lenormand spread earlier in the week more clearly. Do you agree? Do you see how they're linked? If you do, let me know in the comments below. If you do not, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to help you. I'd love to help us to dive into this combination of spreads more deeply. And so, friends, if you want, comment below. You help the channel. You're a benefit to the channel when you comment below. Also, when you hit the thumbs up button and when you subscribe, all of those things that you do help YouTube draw people to us, help enlarge the community. People can find us. So you're a benefit to the channel and to other people finding us. And our community is growing bit by bit, thanks to you. So thank you for doing that. In just a moment, the QR code and the web address for my online tarot reading shop will appear. Take a look. Go over there, take a look at what I have to offer. If you want, order a reading for yourself, for a family member as a gift, or a friend as a gift. All wonderful things. And friends, thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope this has been a benefit for you. I think it has been a benefit for me. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.